Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the show. I know what you're thinking. That's not Kal. He's way too handsome. I mean, the beard and everything, it's almost the same, but yeah. So Kal's taking the evening off, and I am Baron Logan Beth Warden, host of Ask the Knights, and I'm here to help out Her Grace Qamar with her evening show here on Consort Conversations. So without further ado, Your Grace.
Thank you so much, Logan, for filling in, giving Kal a break. It's important, as you well know, seeing as you're taking a break from your show at the moment.
Absolutely.
I am Duchess Qamar al-Nisa, and I am in Artemisia. I have reigned here 3 times with His Grace Duke Sean. Yeah, that guy. I know none of you have heard of him before, so that's all good. And today I have His Grace Timmur helping me with answering how to choose a consort. Timmur, can you give him some information on where you are, who you are?
Well, my name's Duke Timmur. I'm in Artemisia. Been residing in Artemisia my whole my SAA career. And it's weird to say that career. It's a hobby, but somewhere between a hobby it becomes a job. So that's very interesting. I was married to some dude, some random blonde dude. I'm not sure if you know him or not. And it's been a lot of fun, actually. It's been a great path. I've been fortunate enough to serve my kingdom a few times as crown. It's been a blast. It's been a fun ride.
So we are all here today to answer some of the questions of how to choose a consort. And I obviously have not had that quandary, seeing as I am the consort. But both Logan and Timmur have different views of that. Timmur, of course, as he mentioned, having had a long career. And Logan, how long have you been playing?
Way too long.
Way
too long for fighting. I started fighting in earnest when I was in college in 1994. And then I had to take a break for a while and then didn't pick it back up again until mid-2000. And then I've been fighting ever since. But because of my time in the Air Force, going from place to place to place, there were breaks in between and everything. But I've been fighting fairly consistently up until the pandemic, since 2011.
Silly pandemic.
Yeah.
Timmur, how long have you been fighting?
Well, there's 2 parts of it, and it's funny because it's this conversation Sean and I had quite a bit. There's the part where you pick up a stick and start swinging out at your friends, and then somewhere along the way you decide that I kind of want to take this serious. So I started picking up a stick and swinging at my friends back in '89, and then about 4 years later, I decided, I really need what's what are my other options? What can I do with this other than just hang out in the park in goofy clothes and hit my friends? Which, ironically, I did today, hanging out in the park with goofy clothes, seeing my friends. So that part's still the same. But the thing is getting a little bit more serious, a lot more serious, actually. Started out 4 years after '89. So was that 93?
Cool. What has your journey looked like as far as choosing consorts? So, I mean, I'm assuming that over time, your needs is the wrong word, but what you're looking for in a consort, your expectations have changed. Would you say that's true?
It really has. So expectations, like when I'm gonna start with where everything starts for me. It starts on, and that's Tiana. Tiana, my best friend in the world, she's amazing. And our ability to work together, and she pretty much set the gold standard as far as what I'm looking for in a concert. Someone that I can talk to, someone that she can talk to. It's a two-way street. So really what I was looking for is to make sure that there's some kind of, my companion, my love at the time, everything I had. Then with Sage, when I was looking for a consort, and I can't say I found Sage, more like I had a conversation with Sage, and Sage agreed, bless her soul. I was looking for someone that was exactly what Sage is, an incredibly intelligent person, someone who's quick, someone who's smart, someone, and this is going to laugh, but someone who is above rumor and speculation because of her background, because of her solid marriage. And when I talked with her, it wasn't just a talk with Sage, it was a talk with Sage and her husband, because he's going to be willing to share her if we were to be victorious for at least 11 months. And she wanted a second reign, then another 11 months on top of that. And as everyone who's ever sat on any of the thrones, whether it be the Baronia thrones, principality thrones, or kingdom thrones, knows that takes a lot out of marriage, let alone you being willing to share the most important person in the world with someone else, and on top of that, an entire kingdom. So that was a pretty solid conversation I had to have with the two of them. And they were very kind, very generous. They did not say yes right away. They did things that said, I really like to think about for a while. And great, that's awesome. And I remember shortly after the first crown, she's going to hate me for this, but she's like, I didn't think you'd actually win. So I'm like, well, that's cool. I wasn't sure I'd win right off the bat either, so yay. So that was neat. And the interesting thing about Sage, shortly after we won, and once again, this is a testament to the steel that she's made of. She was like, I've never done any public speaking before. I'm like, okay, so this is how this is going to work. And I love you, Sage, I really do. We'll go out there as Prince and Princess for the first time. I will introduce myself, I'll introduce us, and then I'm going to literally take it back. And for the entirety of our principality time, as Prince and Princess, you are going to do most of the speaking part. So that way, when we get up to the thrones, in the center of the thrones, you'll be ready to go. And she's like, sure. So I'm like, hi, do the hi, everybody. I go to people who have been part of my courts and know what that is. I introduce us, I introduce Sage, and I literally take a step back. The irony is that years later, her and I were talking about, we're still very, very close. And her and I were talking about, and she's like, because of what happened, because of our time on the throne, I've been able to do public speaking for her jobs and her church, which she is a very true believer in her faith. And so she's like, because of that, it got me over that hump, and now I can actually put words and everything. So thank you for that. Even though at the time she wanted to kill me. Yeah, really wanted to kill me.
I have to agree. I have a similar story on that front. Like, I don't do public speaking. I get super nervous. I forget what I was gonna say. I could have the whole thing written out and just completely blank when I stand up there. But Sean did something similar where he pushed me, and well, not pushed, but he allowed me to speak first, and then after that he would fill in the holes that I left. But what that allowed me to do is become more confident, and then I was able to, now that applies at work, in meetings, things like that, where before I wouldn't speak up, and now I will. So yeah, I have to say that that's a huge thing. Back to consorting though. So you've had 3 different queens, correct?
Correct.
And you are now fighting for your daughter.
Absolutely, yeah. So,
At the moment.
Which is at the moment, and she is absolutely fine. With the way things have been the last few years, I wanted to be able to compete in this, and I want someone that I knew her and I would be able to work together. They and I would be able to work together, and it was important for that. Also, with her, you know, people. This is the question I get: like, what happens if we win? I'm like, well, then we won't together. Like, but she's so young. Yeah, but I realized that her first event was 3 months after she was born, and that's the same day that Tiana and I stepped up to the Growing Up Thrones. And so she literally has grown up in SBA. And especially like our last reign, we pretty much made her gave her a speaking position. She needed to be out in front representing the youth of Armenia. Like, hey, you know, you're old enough to do this now, and this is what we expect out of you. And she gulped it down and said hi and did it and agreed to it. And it's really bizarre too, because during the last reign, I keep referring to the last reign because a lot happened there. But you know, Tiana and I would be having conversations about what's happening in the kingdom, both on the mundane business side of it and on the, you know, political dream side of it. And it was a conversation with us. Jed would happen to be there. Golden would happen to be there. So we go like, hey, Golden's member, what's your opinion on this? And it was awesome. And this is when I knew that if I was there to continue fighting Crown, I really wanted to be. So I remember this. We were talking about behavior and pure behavior. And one of the issues we're having was someone that was being brought up. And she was like, and she dissected it. She actually dissected the pros and cons and why this person would or would not be. And it was really great to see that logic, that mind just working together to formulate exactly what I needed to hear and Tiana needed to hear. Because, and both of you know this, when you're sitting on the throne, you get the candy-coated version of everyone. Well, the cool thing about having someone like Golden as your daughter is that she's so, when we're not on, she's an invisible one. So people say things, people do things in front of us that they won't even dare say in front of us. And so it was really great to be able to get that kind of feedback, get that kind of information, because even though she was a kid back then, she's always going to be a kid, she was able to hash things out in the way and put them forward. So I look forward to, she understands that there is no expectation to win. And that's a relief off my shoulders. Because sometimes when you're fighting for someone, there is an expectation of them, whether on the Heartsuit side, on the Rapier side. But in this particular case, she understands that if we come to win, she will ascend to the throne and she will do a great job. Or she'll be, you know, royal defender, and she'll do a great job. Whichever way she goes, I know will be. But at the same time, there's not the burden of, all right, if you don't win, it's okay. Because there's some people out there that's kind of a big thing for them. And for her, it's not. She's seen the dark side of the throne. She's seen how it's wrecked people. She's seen how it's uplifted people and made people very happy. So she has a very realistic grasp on what the dream can do to someone. That was a lot.
That's okay. You're talking about your little girl and how proud you are of her. So, you know.
Yeah.
It's a
well,
thing.
More importantly, consort.
Yes. Logan, I have a question for you. So you are married and your significant other does not play very much. And so you fight for someone else, correct?
Correct. My consort is Mistress Asa Torval's daughter, and she's awesome. Everybody who knows her will tell you that.
So what went into your decision into not fighting for your lovely wife and fighting for this other wonderful person?
Well, so Asa is my friend. I met her out here in the West a while back, and my biggest thing is I think it's important for a fighter to have a consort that inspires him, and she inspires me, you know, not just with her great works, her her service, and she's just one of those fun SCA people. She's also a person that I want to see on the throne, because I think she would make a fantastic princess or queen, and I think that it would better the kingdom to have her sit on those thrones, and that fuels my fighting. Because I don't know if I'll be, a good royal or not, but I know that she will, and she won't let me not be good.
That's
And I see
beautiful.
that a lot. I've talked to a few people, and it definitely is finding that balance, that other person that will balance you out and help you both shine. And usually it is, as from the fighter side, it's usually they want to give that person a chance to shine as well, because they do feel like they deserve to be fought for. They are their inspiration, like you were saying. And so I think it's really cool. I think that even when it's not a crown tourney, I think seeing that inspiration and that pride that they're fighting for that person, that excitement, and that person cheering them on, as well as them being excited to fight for that person. It's something pretty amazing to watch. Timmur, I have a question for you, though. As far as we're talking a lot about heavy fighting right now, but on the Rapier side, what are you seeing on that side, as far as, because let's be honest, if you're fighting Rapier at this moment in time, crown is not part of that. Being a champion is, and there are some other things that you can do, but right at the moment, crown is not something that you can go for with the Rapier side of it. But I feel like consorts are important, even if that's not. But what are you seeing in the Rapier community? Like, I've kind of gotten the impression that they're there, but it's just not as highlighted.
It's interesting, because it is not different. It's just once again in Artemisia, and it's a little bit different in other kingdoms, but the underlying tones are the same. And whether it's on the heart field, on the Rapier field, salute the lady whose favor you bear, or salute the gentleman whose favor you bear. That weighs on your shoulders, and it's still, you want to take up a Rapier blade, that I realize that the person who I'm fighting for has trusted me to be the best person I can, not just on the field, but off the field as well. It's my responsibility not to make a fool of that individual. So on the Rapier side, even though there isn't a tournament that showcases it in our kingdom the way it comes for the armored community, it very much so is a who inspires you. I know several Rapier fighters who will not take the field if their consort is not present. I know other Rapier fighters who, even though they have friends, will do it. And I'm not sure because he has a specific title, but right off the bat, Master Hagel, for one, he will not fight for anyone other than Bella. Period. And that is his love. That is his inspiration. And if she's not around, he's just not going to take up arms. And that's cool. It's beautiful the way they do it. And once again, here's an interesting thing. This is the interesting thing with the Rapier community in our kingdom, in Artemisia. Of course, the Defender of the Sable Rose, which is the Kingdom Rapier champion, Defender of the Sable Rose, Defender of the Queens, is our job, our responsibility. You have to when you enter that tournament, your consort has to be absolutely okay with sharing you with the Lady of the Rose and the kingdom again. Once again, it isn't a, hi honey, I'm going out to Vector and I'm going to be gone for a while. No, it's I now have a responsibility. I've taken on this mantle. I'm going to enter this. Is it okay with you? Um, and so that's why, I know that's why for Tiana, the 3 times she's been able to grace the thrones, she makes a point to give out roses to the consorts as the person leaves the list. Say thank you for willing to share your consort with us this day. And so the individual who does that, she's really grateful for their consort, because you're giving up a lot with really no return. You have a job, you have a responsibility. Your consort is along for the ride, for better or worse. They don't have the same benefits. In fact, a lot of times have a lot of detriments. So in a lot of ways, being for the Rapier community, it is, at least in Artemisia, it's a lot heavier of a burden to be the consort, because you're sharing, Hago's one example of that. Elias, whose wife doesn't play as often, is another example of that. These are people who have lives and families, and who their loves, their consorts, are willing to share them, and we're grateful. We as a community are grateful for that. So there's that. Wow.
I'm sorry, Your Grace. We can't hear you.
Oh, that's now.
Oh, there you go.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Sorry, the dog was squeaking on the squeaker, so I muted myself for a second. But I've been really honored. I've been honored to have some of those gentlemen be my champions, having been queen. And I know in Artemisia, we really, really, it's such an honor to be queen and have your Rapier fighters around you, and those times that they do fight specifically for you in tournaments, I can't even tell you what it means. It's amazing. And we are really fortunate here in Artemisia to have that as a really big part of our game. I know it's not that way in every kingdom, but that is something that I really love here. And it is true. We have a few that we are fortunate that their significant others have allowed us to share them, and take some of their time and allow them to share in the dream. And then, like with Hago, Bella also plays. And I want to get this conversation going as far as the Rapier side goes, because I want to understand it better, because I never thought about it the way I should have, or at least the way I feel like I should have. Like you were saying, we give tokens to the heavy fighter consort for crown tourney, but I would like to see maybe some more acknowledgement, especially for the champions, because they are offering up time and commitment to the kingdom when they fight in those tournaments, as well as baronial champions. Some of them have more of a job that is attached to those positions. That's true of some baronies and not others, but overall, I think that it would be a way of including and keeping our consorts. I think being a consort is such an honor that I think that if that were shared with more people, it would keep them engaged longer until they find possibly another thing that they like about the SCA. I think it's one of the first things that a lot of us experience coming in.
I agree 100%. I just wanted to remind our audience out there that if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop them in the chat. You've seen a couple pop up tonight, and we do like to answer your questions, especially on this topic. It is a under talked about topic, so make sure that you're in that chat and you're giving us those questions.
Yeah, and if it doesn't apply to tonight necessarily, but you just have a question in general, please put it in there as well, because we will hold on to those questions if it applies more to something else we're doing later. This is a huge topic, so it's kind of hard to, I I don't know where this is going, but here we are.
Get there. We'll get there.
Right? Is it, I don't know how to pronounce it. Ilio? Defoe?
Elo Defoe, I believe that's correct.
I know you popped up one of the things that they said, but it says any day a fighter goes out and fights, they seek word game. I'm not sure that's supposed to be fame, and to improve their skills. But honoring your consort on the list is a beautiful honor that is not highlighted at practice so much as tournaments. And that is true. But I kind of feel like practice is practice, but tournaments and wars, I don't know.
That's kind of, well, it's one of the things where there are subtle differences between not true. For me, there's not subtle differences. There are very much big differences between a practice and a tournament. And I was talking to some of our fighters, both the Rapier fighters, ironically, about this with me. And because we were talking about the go time. And I let them know that for me, the biggest thing that sets that off and that begins that dance for me on the tournament field that we don't do on, we do it out of lightness and in this beginning in our kingdom once again. We're about to fight our fighter practice, whatever it is, we salute our opponents when we get started. But for me in a tournament, it doesn't matter which tournament, whatever tournament I'm in, you know, the three salutes that get started, you know, salute the gentleman whose favor you bear. That starts my heart. And I'm not talking like, oh, boom, boom. It's just like, it brings it into that solidity about what's to happen. You know, salute the crown. Then next heartbeat, getting there. Salute the your most worthy and honorable opponent. Those three salutes, for me, and it starts with your consort. So, you know, salute the person who's favor you there. That's what starts the men's dance for me about what's about to happen, and that's what triggers the time to go, because that inspiration, there's no other word like inspiration that gets you going. It is just that. I told you the same story, right? That we had shortly after our first reign before the second reign.
That you what?
Did I ever tell you the sage story about? Okay, so I'm gonna go off on a tangent.
Well, because you haven't told everybody else, so you might as well tell the story.
All right, so Sage, my second queen, person that I was fortunate enough to serve on the Griffin Thrones with. She never thought she'd sit on the thrones. Was never something that she was interested in doing, which I love her for. And one day after the first reign, but before the second, I heard her talking. We're hanging out with a group of friends. I almost want to say it was my daily. And she's like, "Oh, all I did was sit down and look pretty," and he did all the work. And I kind of had this like, okay, no offense, Sage, but I'm gonna correct you here because you don't know what you did for me that day. And she's like, okay, what I did? Like, so here we were in the finals with Conrad, literally a giant of a human being. I got like 6 foot, 1 million feet high. Probably one of the coolest cats to grace our field. I was talking about him today. He's what I refer to as pure to the field. There's no, if you hit him with a good shot, he'll let you know. There's no question, no ifs or buts. He just accepts as is, and he expects that out of you. So I love fighting him because I know it's always going to be an honest fight. So here I am fighting Conrad in the final round. I thought anyway, so here we are about to fight. No, it's okay. I'm about to fight Conrad. First time I ever fought him in the Crown tourney in the finals of Crown, and somehow or another I rolled a natural 20. I managed to hit him. I'm like, yay! There's hope. I might actually win for once. Yay! And then he came right back at me and blew me up. And it hit my soul. It hit my soul hard. Like, I'm like, okay, that's it. It was a good run. It was a good, it was a good time. Sage was good sport about this. We can do it again in 6 months if she decides that she wants to do it. I look up over at her and I hear, and she's flushed. She's white, ghost sheet white. I can see her hand shaking. She was nervous. And I'm like, oh, I can't do this to her again. I cannot make her wait another 6 months. Not that she's just because I don't want to put her through this. I don't want to put her through the stress. She's obviously shut out. I need to do this. I need to rise right now, and I need to see this moment. And seeing her in that space, she really inspired me to push it over and take that, do something that I never thought would have been possible. And I was fortunate enough that everything worked out well. I rolled another 20. And I was probably the only person more shocked than Sage I won that day was me. But Sage was literally the inspiration. And I had given up. And I told her that, I give up. And it's you. You inspired me. You made me do that. I wouldn't have been able to do it if you weren't there. So that's the power of inspiration.
So to use your analogy, what you actually rolled was a 19, and she was your +1.
She was, yes.
Yep, that's exactly what that was.
Yeah, and you can't ask for anything better than that.
So I don't know, just to fill some people in, Timmur is also a mod, Master of Defense, and here in Artemisia. So just that's why I was asking about the rapier side of it, because he has that experience as well. He is fighting from a rapier, or he's giving me his view from a rapier side, fighter side, as well as heavy side. So yeah, just to kind of catch people up. Also, there was something else here in Artemisia. Well, we talked about how I know the rapier community, depending on the kingdom, is viewed, celebrated in different ways, I will say. And here in Artemisia, we are very proud of our rapier community. We try to hold them up as much as we can, although I'm sure we don't do it as often as we should. So just kind of throw that out.
The thing is that the rapier community actually is very much so aware of that, and they appreciate it, and they actually support the crown and the populace a lot. I mean, our fire practice a lot of fun. Before a pandemic, it was quite common to see, 20 to 25 rapier fighters on a weekly basis. That was normal. And compared to the Heartsuit community, which was only 13 to 15 fighters. So, yeah.
And then also the other thing that's a little more
fortunate for them.
Yeah, and the other thing that might be a little more Artemisia specific, or just not every kingdom, is the fact that our fighter practices are practices. They are a learning ground. They are training for the most part, and I know that's not true of every practice, and not true of every kingdom. So just so you understand why I said practice is kind of practice and tournament is tournament, and that's where I'm coming from here.
Yeah, and there's important to go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, there's a huge difference. In practice, of course, you want to be, as honorable as you would on any tournament field.
Yes.
But I think as far as this conversation goes, and how consorts work in our game, when you are carrying someone else's honor, it's not yours, but you're responsible for someone else's honor. It makes you that much better, that much cleaner. I've seen fights go between two fantastic fighters, each one of them refusing to allow the other to take a shot because it was flat, because they did not want to win this tournament in any way that could be considered not 100% above board, not because they were worried about them, but they didn't want to put a person, their consort, on the throne and have people in the background saying, well, they shouldn't really be up there. You know what I mean? Like, that is a huge difference when you're dealing with somebody else's reputation.
Yeah, definitely.
Really,
and that's why I'd like to see the consorts showcased a little bit more on all sides of fighting, all sides of where we can. because that honor that you're holding for someone else is huge, or at least it really should be.
Mhm.
It is. It also is part of the pageantry and beauty of society. Is the consort. That is really, the pageantry of the high level tournaments. Having your consort there, walking in with your consort, and having your consort introduce with you. That's just beautiful. It's part of what makes it. That's part of the dream. And actually, for me, the consort, that is the dream. That's the most important part. Because, like Wilson said, it's you're going out there with them. They're with you 100%. So that's kind of cool.
So
Kind of cool
we've kind of
faith in us.
wandered all over the place, but so I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna have you guys correct me if I'm hearing this wrong, or I'm gonna add a few things as well. But I'm gonna say, when you're choosing a consort, which goes back to how to choose a consort, right? You're gonna want to choose someone you can work with, someone that balances you. So we all have talents and deficits, right? So you want to find someone that balances out that talent deficit. And even if you're not in a crown tourney, it's really just that inspiration and someone whose honor you want to hold.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and honestly, here's the thing, and you mentioned it, not the crown tourney, because those friendships, those bonds, start way before the crown tourney begins.
Yeah.
Especially once again, going and reflecting the Rapier community, you really have that bond, that friendship, that being able to work with someone, and you trusting them trusting you, and like I said, with the case of Sage and Sorsha as well, trusting their as Richard putting it, Richard was is Sorsha's husband. I'm trusting is the most important thing in my life. That begins way before the crown tourney, because that kind of being able to build that friendship, that rapport. You know what kind of, excuse the phrase, but what kind of journey the two of you guys are going to be in for, and it's important to build that way before the crown tournament happens. Looking for that person that is going to inspire you, is going to be able to work with you, is going to be able to tolerate you. In my case, I'm not easy to tolerate. But having that person, that friendship build there is it's super important.
And I know we keep floating back to crown tourney, but like you're saying, it starts way before that, and that's why it's still important that you that you consider some of these things, even if you're long before you feel like you're competitive in a crown tournament, or in a Rapier community. Even if that's not something that you're headed for, you're still holding somebody's honor, and there's still going to be tournaments that you want to highlight them in, along with yourself and their honors. So those relationships are built over time.
And and things like that, because speaking of building with time, because there's some mundane things that you need to take into consideration as well. One of my consorts is very devout to her religion, and we'd be traveling a lot on Sundays. I knew that would take time away, and so her and I had a conversation about it. And I'm like, when we are going out, we're going to be out a lot, and you'll be away from your normal area of worship. If you want to, we can find a local branch, a local church to go to. And her husband talked about it. Like, no, we're good. We don't need to. But being able to recognize other people's needs as well in the mundane world, because they're giving a lot up for the dream and for you. And it's important to realize what's important to them, what isn't important to them, because you need to be able to work together a lot on the line. It's not just the fighting stuff, not just honor. They are willing to sacrifice money, time, everything, their families. Because every time I've traveled away with Sage and Sorsha, I was away from Richard and Doug. So yeah, that's kind of it's very much so a big deal.
even when they are your significant other. So if you're fighting for someone that is your significant other, those things still hold true. You have to consider pets. You have to consider jobs. You have to consider, as far as jobs, time off that people can get. You have to consider if children are part of your life, or mundane friendships, hobbies, all of that becomes a consideration, even for a non-crown, because if you want them traveling with you on the weekends so you can fight for them and they can stand on the side of the field, that still plays in.
Oh yeah. Actually,
Absolutely.
even more so for the non-crown, because there are a lot more non-crown tournaments in the verse
Yep.
than there are crown tournaments. So yeah,
Yep.
if you're doing the circuit and traveling out and going out there with them, it's a big deal. And in all honesty, especially those who are thinking about sitting in the throne, or thinking about taking one of those positions up, travel with your consort. If your consort has time, just so they have a better idea, and you don't do the horrible thing I did to Sage and kind of blindside her. They died. I was fortunate. I was fighting for a while before I ran. Before I was fortunate enough to win crown, but that way they know craziness happening too, because it gets kind of crazy.
Well, and this applies to Rapier, who are aiming at, Master of Defense, Mistress of Defense, or a fighter that's headed for a heavy fighter that is aiming towards Master or Knight, is honestly, for the most part, if that is your path that you have chosen, you are going to need to travel. And you're going to have someone you're carrying their honor. It is, for the most, from my view, it's important that those people be able to travel with you as well. Because if you are headed for that, presumably you are, especially heavy, but you are headed for crown. And so again, it's that creating that relationship over time. Traveling together, getting to know people, sharing the experiences, learning how the society works, and possibly exposing them to other people, so that even if say you're a heavy fighter and you've been fighting for your significant other, right? But you get to a crown tournament point and that significant other's like, you know what? I'm just not interested in doing that job. But they've had that time to establish friendships, to find their own way, to find their own path. And if you drag them along traveling, they've gotten to know people so that they can go with you. And they may not be sitting on the thrones with you, but they can interact, have a good time, and still be engaged.
And it's interesting. I'd like to expand on that a little bit more.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go.
No. Logan, go.
I just want to make a point on traveling. In choosing a consort, it's very important to pick the right person, because sometimes you have to go to two different events. Especially in a large kingdom, like out here in the West, we've got, the kingdom itself and 3 principalities, and the royal progress splits a lot of times, because you have 2 major events going on, or 2 kingdom level events going on at different ends of the kingdom, and sometimes the royal couple has to split up just to make sure that everyone in the kingdom is being represented. So I mean, that's another point in the whole travel debate that you have to consider when choosing a consort.
Yep. Timmur?
Now, okay, so I was going to ask to expand a little bit on what you said, Nisa, when we're talking about the support of the consort, because I personally believe that with all 4 of the peerages, the Order of the Chivalry, Order of the Laurel, the Order of the Pelican,
Actually,
and the
you're
Order
right.
of the Defense,
It is all of that.
All 4 of those, you never do it alone You know, if you are, we've worked really hard to talk actually about the Order of the Pence and the Order of Chivalry. So the Order of the Laurel, those people spend so much time on working on a masterpiece, working on their progress, that they are giving up a lot of the time that we don't see, and their significant others, their consorts, are, for better or worse, taking a lot of money and slack around the house, around events, being able to take care of that just so that person can focus on it. And the Order of the Pelican, you know, the Order of the Pelican, those are even crazier, because that's so much service, so much giving that they have to give up, and that person, that consort, is in the background supporting them. If we didn't have those people supporting us in all four of those orders, the dream would just unravel away. So for the consorts, it goes well beyond just the fighting field. But it is so important to have that individual who has put enough faith in you to give you that hope and that favor, whether it be a friend or a significant other. They're carrying, and they're in that journey with you. I want to say it's even almost more so if they're just, I shouldn't say just, but if they're a friend, because there's a lot of sacrifice that's going on. And we didn't talk about it much, but with the Pelicans and the Laurels, so much sacrificing going on. I've talked to Laurel's significant others, and yeah, for the past X months, she's been working on this masterpiece, and I don't see much of her. And I'm very proud of her, and I love her, and I'm supporting her, and I'm right there with her. And the individual is proud of me over the fact that they had done so much, and it was some amazing work. And you can tell that she wouldn't have been able to do it if that person wouldn't have been there to support them 100%. And it just smacks me at home, because I know that we've been talking very much so about the fighting consorts, the consorts that we have, but the Lords of Pelicans, just as much, it's not a journey you take alone. And it's really important that we acknowledge the fact that these individuals are willing to gift us with their faith, their love, with their time to do it, so we can do everything.
Yeah, when I started this, I thought consorts, right? The partner to the other half of the fighter, right? And as I am exploring this now, I realize that it is a much larger conversation, because, like you were saying, we do have any peerage bound or person that's on that track, or would like to be on that track. There are sacrifices, whether it's arts and sciences, whether it's service, whether it's a fighter, and then of course those all mix and match into each other as well. Whether it's archery, anything that we do, because we are a hobby of hobbies, it takes time and sacrifice from your significant other, from the consort, and we all need support in one form or another. And that's what I think those people are.
Yeah.
What do we have? Finding a balance in the home with service and volunteerism. My partner and I trade off. I take a posting. Then when I step down, he will take a posting. So we have the time to support one another. That's Eagle and Rue.
Yep.
And that's true.
That's true. And one thing I really want to throw out there that's a little slight thing. The reason I was snorting and laughing, for those people who do not know, I've known Nisa for a very, very long time. And so I remember her. It's just funny. Yeah, that's all this, sure.
He was there when Sean said
had ascended to the throne.
Yeah. The first time Sean told me he wanted to fight for me, the first thing I did was went, Timmur! So yeah. We've known each other very long.
We have a very long time. That's a different conversation. You're welcome.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm learning this is a huge topic. So back to, I would love to hear from people if they want to see this or anything specifically talked about. I'm learning that every time I think I have a subject narrowed down, it is a lot broader than I realized. So We've covered a lot of stuff in the last almost hour. And there is so much more to cover. So please, please, please let us know what you have questions about. I would love to cover it. I'm kind of jumping on the seeing consorts / supports highlighted a little bit more because it's huge. So
Absolutely.
Timmur, any closing-ish thoughts? We've still got a few minutes, but I'm just thinking.
Honestly, we've covered a lot of it, and that those inspirations, what they do. Like I said, when I thought for Sorsha, Richard very much so as I'm allowing you to fight for the most important person in my life. She's my inspiration. She's my world. And for those of you who do not know Richard, he is what I refer to as Superman, because he used to be a miner and he lost his leg and slightly ended his high competitive career in a mining accident by saving other people's lives, essentially. And so when he could no longer fight, we had a long conversation. This was years later. We had a long conversation about it. And he's like, yeah, I really like it if you could please, allow my wife to get her duchy. And yeah, and so it's that inspiration, that trust, that honesty. And so I'm very thankful for him for me the opportunity with Sorsha, because Sorsha was giddy, joy, ball of fun, and total handful in a blast. But yeah, no, it's the concert thing. It's so hard to pick and figure out what characteristic you're looking for, because there's a lot for me, and I could just ramble on and on about it. But most important thing, I'm fortunate to have
it's so
three
individualized.
people that said yes. Yeah, and like my last reign, going back to Tiana, Tiana was my first and second queen. Last reign was, and you remember this, Nisa. It was very much so a Tiana, something's going on. I really need your help. And I split everything out on the table, and she agreed. She agreed that she would be willing to, and that was definitely my rights. But I needed at that time. I needed her expertise and her ability to do literally everything, organize everything.
Awesome.
I'm sorry, I can ramble on.
It's okay.
No way. Your Grace Duke Timmur, thank you so much for being on the show. Your Grace Qamar, thank you so much for having me on to help host. I had a fantastic time, but I would be a terrible stand-in host if I didn't do a couple things for Kal before I left. First off, hey, everybody out there in internet land, if you like this show and you like the other shows that Kal does and produces, like maybe Ask the Knights, and you want to help support all those shows, you can go over to Patreon and support us there at patreon.com, KK Productions, and you can give us a little monetary high five. It helps keep, basically the wheels on the cart, if you will, pays for this fantastic program that we use to do these shows, and things like new headphones, cameras, microphones, so that you can hear us and see us and all that kind of good stuff. If you don't want to do anything like that, you can always go over to Redbubble, just like this right here, and you can get a fantastic Ask the Knights Live sticker or any of the other KK Productions shows. There's tons of them over there. We even have Do Nightly Things sheets, bed sheets, so you can get that. And
oh my God.
It just gives us a little bit of help to keep these shows up and running, and to keep us from pulling, our hair out of our heads. Okay, I don't have any hair on my head, but I don't. You don't want to lose this. So,
yeah, right. Also, please, please, please like, share, check out some of the other programs. Kal does Kal's coffee. I can't remember the whole name of it, but it's on Sunday mornings.
It's a coffee with Kal.
Coffee with Kal.
What You Playing Wednesdays.
Playing Wednesdays.
Yeah, if you like that stuff, and one of a million other shows that Kal does or produces.
Yeah. So check it out. Like, share, YouTube, Facebook. He's everywhere, and it's awesome. He's doing some amazing work.
All right.
He's helped me put this together. So, Timmur, do you have anything you want to do a shout out for?
Me, no. Thank you. All it comes to make this dream happen.
Thank you so much, Timmur.
You're welcome. Love you.
Love you too. Logan, did you have anything else you wanted to close out with?
Yeah, I would like to give a shout out to a couple of my favorite people. You know who you are. Asa, my consort, she is, like I said, a wonderful person, and maybe we'll get there one of these days. And Tare of Andover, you know that you are super special, and I think the world of you. Thanks everybody out there who has supported not only Ask the Knights Live, but all of Kalbardr's productions. Because without you guys, we've got nothing to do. And we sit around, just missing the SEA instead of getting to hang out and talk to awesome people.
True that. All right, you guys.
And thank you so much for letting me be on the show again.
Thank you, Logan, so much. I really appreciate your time and effort in hanging out, answering questions, letting me poke and prod at how your process works as well as Timmur. So thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome. And with that, I guess we'll end the show and say good night, everybody.
Night, everybody.